Good day, welcome to the movement yet again. Now today we are joined by a remarkable leader. He was the mayor of the Midvaal municipality. He left the DA to join Action SA, championed a few projects at Action SA, but now he's got his own project, Xiluva. Did I say it correctly?
Xiluva.
Xiluva, there we go.
There we go.
Ntate Bole,
Yes.
how are you?
No. We're doing very well. We are blessed. We've got good health. We are working every day. We're working hard towards our target. And I think the fact that we have met the stipulations put by IEC for us is a good thing. So it demonstrates that we are a party that's going to contest and contest as an alternative.
All right. I was quite surprised that you actually made it in the ballot because I said to you, I didn't hear much noise about you making it on the ballot. But how was the process and, how's the membership looking like?
Look, it was quite exciting for us because we really embraced the requirements of IEC to go and collect these signatures. What it also did for us, it helped us build a constituency really quickly because we had to speak to people. We had to knock on doors and request people to trust us with their most valued personal details, which happened. So our membership is growing. At this particular moment, we are solely focused on campaigning and going door to door and recruiting activists. So there's lots of administrative parts that we've put aside to focus solely on getting to the voters. So we've got a backlog of capturing our full database of members. But for a party like ours that has limited resources, limited home bodies, I can do so much. So I really decided to focus solely on doing our door-to-doors.
Right. I remember asking you this after you left Action SA. And I said to you, are you not afraid of starting your own project? Are you not afraid of venturing on your own? And you said, if I fail, I just back up again and try again. How has it been so far to go solo? What challenges have you faced, charting your own vision for this country? Yeah. And, the name of Xiluva was also challenged by some, that why would you choose a specifically African name, particularly associated with a particular tribe.
Yeah.
Some said it could be divisive, and many expected you to fail because they thought you're opening something regional like the IFP.
Correct. Yeah, African people can be strange at times. We believe Uguti, the thing that is a center and accommodates everybody, is English. So in a country where we say we've got how many official languages, with the inclusion of the most recent one now, so 12 official languages, it doesn't make sense to me why Africans would still want to have a political party and name it in English. So we were quite clear that we're going to name it in a Xitsonga language, which is a language and a people that is often frowned upon when we speak about, I think, the situation in our country a lot. But at the same time, we're also very strategic about the words that we use, Xiluva, and its positioning on the ballot as well. Also realizing that the top part of the ballot will be contested by many parties. There will be many African somethings, AMC, ANC, ACC, AUC, all of these parties who believe in that. But in terms of the journey so far from us, I think it's been a fruitful journey. We have grown significantly and immensely in a very short space of time. We're a year old now. When many people didn't think would last beyond 3 months, we're now a year old. We've got people who now support this party and they understand the vision. And I really have embraced my responsibility as a leader to chart a vision and to demonstrate something new. So people follow something that is unique, because we said we want to demonstrate something different in the body of politics and represent something different and bring something different. And that's what we are doing. The challenges have been immense, from financial challenges, home body challenges, people joining and expecting to get senior positions and then leaving when they realize the environment does not allow for that sort of thing. And people also realizing that it's not an environment that is cash flush. We struggle with money. And I keep making that point that, and many people on Twitter call me the Jomasono of our party because I do everything. And that's the attitude you take when you're building. You really get your hands involved in every aspect of the party or institution that you are building. So fast we've continued. And we are proud that we've withstood, and we're resolute, and we are growing as a party, and we're an alternative that's on the ballot paper.
You speak about being called the Jomasono of the party. But, this perhaps was something you were also accused of in Action SA. You were quite proactive, and you were leading the building of the structures in Gauteng. And to an extent, some didn't like certain comments you were making. Some didn't like certain ideas that you were coming with. Did you take offense to that?
No, I don't take offense. Dogs don't bark at a stationary vehicle. People will have a problem with people who are doing something, who are self-starters, who have got a drive and who understand that their time on earth is limited, so they must do the best they can with the time that they have. So I'm that type of person. So many people naturally take issue with me for being proactive because it presents a problem to them. What are they doing? Why am I able to achieve so much in such a short space of time? What are they doing? So for me, I don't entertain that. In fact, I focus squarely on what my responsibility is, and I need to move. I don't have a lot of time on earth. I mean, it might be 50 years left in my lifespan. And for me, there are things that I've set in my goals that I want to achieve by a certain period of time. So I don't have a lot of time to entertain people's feelings about whether they like what I'm doing or don't like what I'm doing. I'm purely focused on what my purpose is and what I need to do with this political party, and the fact that there's many people who need hope, who are unemployed, who are unemployable, people who don't see a future for themselves, people who look like me and you, our age, who say to me that their biggest dream is just to have an RDP home. For me, that's the saddest thing. I mean, that's a very sad thing for someone who's our age to say the biggest thing I want out of my life is to have an RDP home. So those people's dreams have been curtailed significantly. So if you know those conditions out there for people and you then listen to people who will say anything about you, you'll lose focus. And for me, it's important to always put my eye on the bouncing ball. And the bouncing ball is, how do I resolve unemployment, inequality, and poverty?
The party you're with, Action SA, accused you of at some point that you left because you were probably a brat that wanted to be the mayor of Pretoria. When things didn't go your way with these clandestine negotiations with the ANC, you packed up and left. What is the truth of how you left?
Well, there was negotiations with the ANC. Those negotiations were led by the chairperson of the party of Action SA. How can a junior in that situation where I'm the provincial chair, lead the negotiations in the same room where the national chair is? So the negotiations did happen with ANC, was sanctioned by the leader of Action SA, who was fully briefed about them, who consented and gave his blessing before he turned around and then pulled the plug on all of us for no apparent reason. But we moved beyond that. I think that the thing that for me was very key, in his words, he called a meeting and said to me, doesn't trust me. And the fact that in a meeting which we had, a Senate meeting a week prior to that, where I made remarks on an agenda item, that agenda item was about his bodyguard, where I made remarks that he did not like and that to him demonstrated that he cannot trust me. And secondly, that we don't call each other. And as a consequence, wants to remove me as the provincial chairperson of the party and appoint me as a national spokesperson of the party. And for me, it was contradictory. If you don't trust me, you don't trust me. So if you don't trust me as a provincial chairperson, then you should not work with me as a national spokesperson. Mm-hmm. So for me, words have meaning. I've built my brand. I've worked hard. I haven't been given a step up by anybody. I've worked to be who I am and to carry the name that I have today and the experience and record I have in government. And I'm not going to allow anybody to trample on my dignity or anybody to use my name or to turn me into some ice boy. So when you speak like that to somebody like me, you're effectively saying there's no more space for me here. And because I have to preserve my dignity and live with that level of respect, I also understand that this is no longer an environment for me to be able to work. So these are the things I said at the press conference, and I've been very consistent. Their responses around ANC issues have never even been proven. So they don't deny that he does. So one thing I did not understand about that type of leadership is when you see a relationship is deteriorating and you believe that you don't trust a person, at least the most decent and common thing you can do is call a person and say, these are the allegations about you. Respond. The worst thing you can do is take those allegations and want to take them as fact, and then they change how you see a person. But nonetheless, I've moved on from that. I moved myself from the situation. I resigned. I was not fired. I resigned because I realized that young people in politics will forever be taken to pillar to post if they don't see other young people being brave and saying, we're going to do it on our way. We're not going to allow people who have money to abuse us because they've got resource and they've built a platform. So I think it's important that people who have the means, not just financial means, but the capabilities to be able to rally people, they must do something. And I consider myself as one of those people. So leaving that part has really accelerated my growth. I'm very proud of the time that I spent and the contribution that I make. No one can ever take that away from me. So for me, I've moved beyond that. There's no ill feelings. There is no hate. There's no anything. I've moved away very clean and focused on Xiluva. And it's growing today, a year old. We've got members, whereas I started and I was alone working the ground, and now there's people walking behind me and on the sides and in front of me. Now people who believe in this vision, people who were disgruntled, who were despondent about politics, now they believe.
Oh, what's this dream that you want to achieve? I mean, you've got this party, Xiluva, which is flower, means flower. But what do you, and you said you wanted young leaders. You said you want young people to lead. What is the dream that you have with this political party?
Well, when we've been in government as Xiluva for 10 years, the type of country we live in will have the following two characteristics. One, you'll be able to sleep without locking your door. That speaks to safety. That speaks to your society. That speaks to just the general wellness of your society and citizens in that area. Number two, the second aspect of it, on a Saturday or on a weekend, when we've been in government for 10 years, there is no single person who will decide on a weekend to go and join a political party and go a rally. Because this individual would have been busy the entire week at work, at some gainful employment, creating a livelihood for themselves. And on the weekend, they'll appreciate that it's time for family and for them to run their errands, and the fact that politics has stabilized, that you don't need black people to rally and always filling up stadiums instead of going to enjoy the lives that they live and their times with their special ones. Now, those two characteristics speak to a society where the following things have happened. One, government has been restructured. Number two, we have significantly invested in unleashing human potential. That means we are dealing decisively with unemployment, inequality, and poverty, and most importantly, youth unemployment. And number three, we would have dealt with aggressive transformation. So many people believe that you can deal with the issues of racism by creating some laws. I firmly believe that even though that may make some sense and make some gains, the best way to deal with the racism decisively is to empower black people economically to a stage where black people appreciate that actually we don't need to go and support this retail chain. We have our own that we can buy from, and where we have our financial institutions, retail chains that compete with the very best that we have at this point. It's only when black people in the main move their money to others that will gain respect. For now, the people know that they can do whatever they want to us. Nothing is going to happen. We're still going to buy at the very same shops where they look down on us. So for me, it's very important that part of what we deal with in terms of the economy is transform the economy. By transforming the economy, I am also equally saying that we must get black people owning means of production and much more richer, and having black companies that deal with the issues in big markets that are generally black, including retail and financial, etc., etc. So it also means that we would have stabilized infrastructure in government. Infrastructure, both municipal infrastructure, that is bulk, that's your water, sanitation, that is your electricity, and the internal roads, those must have been stabilized to facilitate the continuity of business, so business is not interrupted. And then secondly, national infrastructure that is of strategic nature and economic nature. There's our piers, our maritime, our railroads, and a number of aspects that speak to national economic infrastructure that allows for goods, services, and humans to move from one place to the next place with minimal hindrances, where you can get in a taxi in Vereeniging at 5 o'clock, come to Johannesburg with the same ticket that you have, get onto a Gautrain with the same ticket that you have, get into SAA, go to Durban and be able to move around in Durban with the very same ticket you have and come back to Johannesburg or in Vereeniging. So this is a country where we really integrate government. Government is too fragmented. At times, you'd feel that it's not the same departments from the same government that are actually that are contesting for space, that are duplicating responsibilities. So I'm going to this detail to demonstrate to you that these two aspects I spoke about when we've been in government after 10 years will be enabled, or that reality will be a reality that comes to fruition, is the fact that it will be able to deal with this part of governance. And fortunately, I have got a decent appreciation of governance. with my experience from midvaal as well. And I really appreciate and know that the ultimate sophistication of governance is in its simplicity and getting the state to function.
So you speak about midvaal. You became a mayor in your late 20s, am I correct?
At 26.
26. How did it feel having bodyguards and having protectors and having, this VIP fleet around you and all these people fussing over you? How did it feel at that age?
It was strange, but I had to grow up quickly in life. So I was raised by a single parent, and I'm the firstborn. So naturally, in that situation, you take on responsibilities that are taken by much older people at a very young age. So I'm just saying that the issue of taking on responsibilities sooner than later is something that has been constant in my life. So when the added responsibility of leading a municipality was on my shoulders, I knew that I had to work and deliver, and I knew that I started my journey at -10 because I'm young and I'm black, and I happen to be the first black mayor of a DA, including midvaal. So the pressure for me was not just if I fail black people, also fail young people and black people broadly. So for me, I knew that I needed to work and focus on delivery and understanding governance so I can deliver sustainable and consistent results. So the issue of the support from the office, the issue of the support in terms of protecting you, I always refer to it as perks for the office, not for the person. So it was by consequence that because you occupy that position, and as a consequence, these are available. So I reminded myself all enough that this is not a Bongani thing. It's a position thing, and I must appreciate that. And that helps because when you transact with these things at that level, often people start thinking they're an extension of their personalities. They think, yeah, country. But for me, it was very different. I knew that this is for the people, and I must be responsible in dispatching my responsibilities, but equally very sensible. And obviously, when you start to do your work in local government, you start to actually step on people's toes. Because you're strengthening internal controls. People don't like that who want to get money out of the municipality. They'll definitely try and do things to you so they can get someone appointed or elected who is not as keen as strengthening internal controls and preventing wasteful expenditure and tender rigging and a number of those things. Because I've always been one who's very obsessed about finding things before they happen and putting in measures in place to prevent it or mitigate those things from happening. So strengthening internal controls is something that I have a deep appreciation about, and is something that, for me, started making many enemies for me.
Guys, you're still with the movement. We're still sitting with Bongani Baloyi. Click, like, share, and tell everyone about our podcast. Now, you speak about enemies, Bongani. What enemies are you talking about? Are you talking about political enemies? Or are you talking about people trying to maybe get tenders from you and you declined?
Beyond it was never easy just like that for people to approach me to get tenders. I always looked at how do we tighten up the internal controls. When you tighten up the internal controls, it means that you make it difficult for people to want to do wrong things to do those wrong things. And by mere fact that we used to evaluate them regularly and improve year on year over and above what the Auditor General is saying, but we also had our own targets of strengthening internal controls. Many municipalities are in the state that they are not by mistake, but by design. So you weaken internal controls that people run tenders fraudulently. They keep extending contracts without running new tenders, and people are bought to do wrong things. So I actively worked to create an environment where those things do not happen. And if we found them, we dealt crudely with them. We made examples of people that we dealt with who were doing that. So naturally, when you do that, understanding that the environment in local government of people who want to extract from local government without doing anything, those people will not be comfortable in that environment. And more so when you start breaking up things where one company was getting for 10 years and saying, but it does not make sense from a policy point of view. If we are genuinely transforming, why aren't we leveling the playing field and breaking this up to a number of portions? Why do you have the same consulting company also doing the construction of it and having the tender for almost 8 to 10 years? Doesn't make sense. I mean, split the two things up, have consulting and have a tender, and also break it up to reasonable portions to ensure that the local economy also plays a meaningful role in that space. So when you do those things, my brother, I mean, you're talking about a midvaal budget, which I inherited was 700 million. When I left was 1.2 billion rands. So effectively, I think midvaal at that stage was collecting at an average between 60 million, 80 million a month, more or less, and expending something similar, give or take, maybe in fact much less than that, but in the similar region, ballpark figure. So you've got a sense that there's serious millions of money that people want to get their hands to and do whatever they want. So if there's someone who's tightening the internal controls, preventing those things from happening, then it makes it difficult for people. Now a target is on your back.
Now, the DA would have said you left, but they gave you an opportunity. I mean, 26 as a mayor. And as you rightfully say, you're probably one of the first mayors of the DA and black. So how would you justify you leaving when you were held in such high esteem and you had such a great opportunity in the DA?
Look, I'm proud of my association with the DA that I had in the past. But all of that is in the past. They gave me a platform to be a mayor at a very young age, which I competed for. And when the opportunity was there, I worked to deliver and to take the municipality to new heights. And at the point where I realized the Democratic Alliance ceased to become a political party that could actually win in the hearts and minds of South Africans at a national level to become the government in waiting. That's when I realized that it's time for me to look elsewhere. In any case, then the DA changed with the coming back of a few leaders, Ms. Helen Zille and also Musi leaving. I think for us was the end of a project there. So it was important that one reconsiders their political future or future generally, and that's what happened. So I was not fired. I didn't fight with anybody. I served the residents of Midvaal. I handed back the municipality through handover, and it was stable, financially viable and sustainable. And that was a responsible thing for me to do, and that's what I did. Because I believe in a different types of politics there where we put our people above our own political interest. And that's what I demonstrated to the residents of Midvaal, whom I still hold dearly till this day. And I've got a deep appreciation and love and respect for them because they really assisted my growth and were enabling me to lead them. I mean, whenever there was issues around the municipality or needed something in the community, that community of Midvaal was the first to say, how can we help? As opposed to just saying, may I help? So for me, that is the past, but it's something that I cherish. And I've moved past the DA, I've moved past the Action SA. I don't want to confuse the people who are watching this. They must know that I'm now the leader and president of Xiluva. And that's a growing political party, a vibrant political party. That's an alternative that's on the ballot that many people did not believe that we'll get there. But now we are here.
Before I jump back into Xiluva, I would like to ask this question. You mentioned the return of Helen. You know, Musi was on the same podcast last week, and he also mentioned the return of Helen. Why does it sound like the return of Helen to the DA almost changed things for, if I could say, black leaders? And then there's the aspect of the Afrikaner voters, because Musi was saying that he was to blame, or he was told he was to blame for the departure of the Afrikaner vote to the FF+. What is it that happened around that period that would you say sort of made the black aspirations of leaders in the DA to sort of be dampened?
Look, if you go back in time and you remember around that time, there was a different, call it a different vibe around the DA, where many black people are considering it as an alternative, more so when it was led by Musi Maimane, because they started to see themselves in the DA, represented by the leader of the DA. They had hope. So it ignited people's hope that actually there could be an alternative which is different, that's going to put people first. So at the head of that project was Ntate Musi Maimane. So when things happened where the head of the project resigned, and when I'll forever be critical on him on this part, agreeing that there should be an external party or external panel that evaluates the performance of the party. And I strongly held the view that he shouldn't have agreed to that. He was elected by Congress, and he should have either called for early Congress and should have gone there and accounted to Congress and not a three-party independent panel that was not independent in my view. But that's what happened. I think that triggered a lot of things. A lot of work had happened, and for people to start believing in the Bonganis and seeing a different alternative. And then I think they really triggered and animated South Africans' hearts and minds to believe that this could be a credible alternative. But moving back and also looking at the things that were said about him and Dr. Maiman, and also Helen's public, very controversial comments around various issues that did not bode well. So coming back into the organization at that level, I think gave people the perception that the old guard is taking back the party.
Back to Xiluva, who are you aiming for? Are you aiming for all South Africans or colors? I mean, as you came in, I asked you about your traditional crown, and I said to you, people are asking about this crown. I guess for some people it's unusual to see a politician in a suit and perhaps with a crown, unless you're probably in Swaziland, which is, quite still traditional, Do you think you are the right guy to lead South Africans of all races? And what do you think about expressing yourself traditionally, despite leading a diverse nation?
Well, firstly, our ideology at Xiluva is Ubuntu. And what inspired us to go to Ubuntu as an ideology is the fact that we are done assimilating into a culture of the Western culture, where whenever you get into politics, you must leave what you know as a black person and assimilate into white people's culture. I am done with that. So Inhlangano yethu Xiluva is a party for Amanqaba. For people who are saying we're done assimilating, we're going back to who we are as African people, and we're going to interact and engage the rest of the world from who we are in protecting what is our essence. Now, our essence is captured by Ubuntu Bet. So we believe that family, Ubuntu, Abantu, that's the first aspect of Ubuntu. That simply means that we are a communitarian society. We're not this individual society that many people pretend that we are in terms of liberalism, where they say it's individual first and society next. We firmly believe that it's society, community first. So you become an individual on the basis of your contribution to the communal table for the benefit of everybody. At this point in time, it's vice versa. It's individuals extracting and forgetting the community. And it's against us. That's why black people are living in the manner that they are. And some argue strongly that black people are schizophrenic. At home, you are one thing. In the workplace, you are one thing. When you are back in the village, you are something else completely. Why can't we be the same person throughout? It's because when we leave our places of home and our villages, we interact a world which we don't control, a world which is dominated by ideologies that are foreign, a world that erodes your sense of self, so to be something else. And we are schooled in that environment which teaches you to be something else and not yourself. So I'm stressing this point so people to understand who we are. So why would Africans worry when an African of Umqhele, as an example? I mean, it's the strangest thing when you find Africans who are worried about another African wearing a traditional attire. And I understand partly why, is because Africans, as I've said about the issue of schizophrenia as well, but Africans also wear their traditional attire twice a year. On the 21st of September, and also when they go to weddings. So for us, it's what we live. It's who we are. So we're putting who we are on the table to say we are ones who, anyone who wants to join Xiluva, you must assimilate into our culture, which is a culture of black people. You'll have to understand what Ubuntu is and why Amasiko Nesintu is important to us and what we mean by communitarian society and how you embrace that. So anyone who believes in those will believe in who we are. And I don't believe wearing traditional attire is limiting to appeal to any group. If I don't appeal to that group, it's fine. This is who I am. I'm not going to change. If a man is wearing a suit and tie, and we don't argue that he will appeal to some and not others, but when it's an African, we want to make that argument. It's a strange thing. So we want to liberate Africans to see that you can actually be yourself without having to explain yourself in this land of our forefathers. So we are very clear and intentional about what we are doing. We are not against anybody. We are pro ourselves.
Do you think a white person can subscribe to the values of Ubuntu? Can a white person necessarily know what Ubuntu is, or do you think it's a far-fetched concept?
We must teach them. If they believe or not we believe, we'll take the time to assimilate them nicely into our culture.
But someone can say, when you're in the DA, had you always had these views?
No, you see, you're speaking to now a young man who has grown.
Yeah.
I was a boy then.
Yeah.
Manje ngiyindoda ngiyinkunzi yombhemu manje nawe uyangibona nje ukuthi ngiphelele. So now my views are firm. Ngikhulile, I've done deep introspection about my journey and what I need to do and what I need to offer the country. I know myself now. And if you read my political biography, you'll think that it's an obituary because of how much I've done for my age. So I'm still a young person at 37, but now I'm firm and very clear about what my purpose is. So you can't judge me on what one did when you were 26, 24. But at the same time, Ronaldo did not start off in Real Madrid. So he started somewhere. There's a journey before he got there. And that's my journey as well, which is very public.
Interesting. And your policy, Xiluva's policy on foreign nationals?
Well, we were very clear. Foreign nationals, we welcome foreign nationals into the country. They must come through our ports of entry. If you are illegal in the country, there is no argument that it's a crime that you have committed. You must be arrested and dealt with. So we don't believe in regularizing illegal immigrants into the country. We believe in dealing with them and processing them because they've broken the law of our country, number one. Number two, we firmly believe that we must amend the admission policy for our schools and public schools, that there should be no more than 10% of illegal foreigners in any public school. So if you go to Daleside, where I was brought up, there's a Renville primary school, 90% are illegal foreigners. In a public school, 90% are foreigners. So you go to Assemblies of God in Henley on Klip, majority of the people, of the learners who are there are foreigners. So for me, it does not make sense. Number two, after amending that policy, we'll ensure that they pay a premium to access our public education. They must pay a premium to access our private healthcare or public healthcare as well. So there must be things that we tighten up, including in assisting people to go back home. But at the same time, we must also tap into economic diplomacy, which our country has really been bad in. It is far cheaper for South Africa to take South Africans and say, go and invest in Zimbabwe and create jobs in Zimbabwe, and 40% of what you produce comes back to the country. It's far cheaper creating jobs in Zimbabwe than deporting people all the time. So we must be strategic about what is in our national interest from a economic interest point of view. That's in Zimbabwe, and that's in Mozambique, and various other countries. So we step up because I generally believe we can really be progressive in how we channel economic diplomacy and also get national interest for the country at the same time while solving a problem in Zimbabwe as opposed to solving it in the country.
Julius Malema speaks about the Berlin Conference, that these borders were imposed, and he speaks about a one united Africa, and his party has taken a knock, based on his views on foreign nationals. But do you believe that these borders are problematic, or do you think these borders need to be there to protect the country?
We're a sovereign state, and the borders that we have now should really protect the country and mend those borders in such a way that they ensure the integrity of the country and protect the country. Because these borders at the current stage, it's not just illicit goods. There's also stolen goods moving. There's also human trafficking happening as well. People coming into the country, drugs. You don't know what's happening. So you can't say we are a sovereign state and we are safe as a country and yet your borders are not properly manned. I think we differ fundamentally with that approach. We must protect ourselves. We can strengthen our ties economically to other parts of Africa. We can then also say to SADC, let's grow towards having a common platform for registering our citizens in SADC. So as you do so, there's a number of things you can do to improve regional integration and economic integration, where you ensure that you build a level of citizens who have an appreciation of what's happening on all sides as well. But how do you build a level of partnership amongst all citizens, but it must start somewhere. And I think the most responsible way to do it is firstly by strengthening and protecting our borders, and secondly, improving regional integration and economic integration, and engaging on economic diplomacy to resolve some of the challenges happening there. But at the same time, we must be very clear and unambiguous about injustices that may be happening in those countries while still respecting their sovereignty as independent states.
Xiluva seems quite traditional in terms of, African values. What about a gay person who says, I would like to vote for Bongani, but I'm afraid that, the sense of culture within the party would not allow someone like me to fit in? Do you think that would be a feasible, argument?
It wouldn't be a feasible argument because we welcome, as long as you believe in what we believe in. And you firmly believe that Ubuntu. So when we speak about Ubuntu, there's nowhere we touched on issues of sexuality. We do, however, speak about the importance of building African families because it's very important. And ensuring that, in fact, in my family, the family nucleus has never just been the father, the mother only. It's been by extension, ugogo nomkhulu, nabo malume basikhulisile. So we must really rebuild the African families, the African family nucleus in however formation, but we must start raising children in families that are stable. So if you believe in these things and share the values we share, and you don't contradict with what we believe in, then absolutely. And I don't see the contradiction in someone who says, I identify differently, I've got a different sexual preference. It doesn't contradict with what we stand for.
100%. There are claims that the IFP had invited you to come join them while you were with Action SA. Is this true? And do you think there's similarities between the IFP and Xiluva?
Look, the IFP never invited me for anything. There's a few calls I got from other parties who wanted to talk, and I declined having any conversation.
Could you name a few?
No, I'm gonna. Those are I mean, the ANC is not one of those.
Of course. Okay.
So other parties were parties that were not born yet.
Oh, okay.
Majority of those wanted conversations are parties that were not born yet, but now are born. Those parties. So no, I can't name them. Yes, I can't name them. So the one around similarities between us and IFP, I maybe in terms of traditional look, maybe we people believe that there's some alignment. Perhaps there might be alignment from that perspective, but look at what we stand for, and we'll be revealing more of our manifesto in the coming days. I think that will give South Africans a fair comparison between us and them, so you can really see that beyond the look, beyond what people perceive, there's actually substance that is that's fundamentally different with Xiluva.
Would in the future, Xiluva consider a working relationship with the MK?
Our position now is that we don't have a position on future coalition. A position will only be made after we've seen the numbers on the screen at the Rock Center. When we are sure that we are a factor, there's going to be some party that needs to be reckoned with after the elections, absolutely. At this stage, we are not tied to any political party. Currently, we're not talking to any political party. We've had advances from the Moonshot Pack thing when we started. We declined respectfully. There's been other smaller Nyana parties trying to engage us. We've declined respectfully. We are unencumbered. We are not linked to anybody. We don't have entanglements. That's what we're going to do until we get to elections, to demonstrate to South Africans that this is who we are, what we believe in. And we fundamentally believe that we are the ones that can lead this country differently. And if that does not happen, then we'll reconsider our approach and be able to share with the nation what our position is.
And then funding, the issue of funding is quite big in terms of these parties.
Yeah.
Who's funding Xiluva? Are you going to churches, getting collection? How are you putting things together?
The one thing I've learned about politics over the years and observed is that those that fund you dictate what you do and what you cannot do. So our position, more so with how we've approached it from Ubuntu's perspective and our position on land, position on Makosi, no one is going to fund us, and no one has funded us. I mean, the most generous donation we got was 50,000 rands. The rest I must do a bit of work with a bit of consulting, do something there, loan money to the party. buy 20 T-shirts today, another 40 T-shirts another time. So that's how we are growing. That's why you only find us on the ground. And some of the time when you find us on the ground, our members are not dressed appropriately with party gear because we don't have the money. That's why we could not stand in Limpopo where we are strong. And in Mpumalanga, we've got lots of members, including KZN, because we do not have the money. We only have money to register in the Gauteng ballot, a provincial ballot and a national ballot. Money has been a serious limitation for us, but because we are children born out of poverty and from mothers who raised us as single parents who made 10 rands look like 100 rands, we learned from that. And poverty doesn't scare us because that's where we are from. So we've worked the ground because it's a familiar territory. The one thing that our members and members of Xiluva have in abundance is that we are unemployed and therefore we've got time and energy.
Sure. I'll give you the rest of the show to speak about the policies of Xiluva. Wrapping up, would you tell us 5 reasons why you think Xiluva should be the party that leads this country after May 29?
Absolutely. Number one, I think Xiluva is led by myself, a young person who has experience in government and has a public record, and is someone that people can trust. Secondly, we want to restructure government. It means we want to do the following things. We want to reduce cabinet. We want to move away from the current constitutional democracy to parliament sovereignty, which gives parliament the overall right. Once a law is made, no one can change it except parliament itself. And I really think that position puts parliament in a strong position to be able to pursue aggressively transformation in this country, unhindered by some rulings in our courts. And I think we need to, as a country, reacquaint ourselves with the law. From basic policing and a number of things. So we get back to appreciating and working within the confines of the law as a country, because lots of lawlessness is happening. As we restructure the country or restructure government, we're also going to remove or do away with the sphere of provincial government, because it's a sphere that really serves no purpose according to our view, where the monies and competencies could go to local government and capacitate local government. In respect to local government, we are of the view that we must reduce local municipalities from the 257 to under 60 districts municipalities in the country. And having wall-to-wall district municipalities, you'll have better coordination, planning, and capacity, because you'll merge some of the skills from province back down to local government to augment and support some of the deficiencies that you might find there. But it will easily help for consolidation, better planning and implementation for government, and pooling of resources, and most importantly, ensuring that the biggest competencies that people need on the ground are closest to them. Policing will be one of those that are devolved to local municipality, not the policy aspect of it, but the running of it and where they are responsible and report to, including education as well. This is one part when you speak about restructuring government. The second part is we want to unleash citizen potential. A lot of citizen potential is currently mothballed. It's not going anywhere. People are dreaming only of just getting an RTP home and just getting EPWP job or these 350s. We really need, as a government, to facilitate the unleashing of human capital or citizens' potential, rather, so they can live the type of life and quality of life that they desire, but on the means of their hard work and working diligently and using the opportunities that they find and not being at disadvantage by where you are born and the color of your skin. So we need to do that by ensuring that those who are currently unemployed are given a path towards being absorbed in government and put into conscription for 2 years in the military. And secondly, those who have the skill and are unemployed and there's no opportunities for them in the country, we must pair skills that are needed across the world and actually be able to send our labor that is qualified to meet those opportunities. And then thirdly, those skills that we can unlock through intervention with and collaboration with the private sector must do so. We also need to be very punitive to private sector who is sitting with trillions in reserves not investing in the country. So the cost of keeping money and as opposed to having the money work in the economy must be higher. That will stimulate and and shock them into the type of behavior that is patriotic by force, to be able to reinvest in the country and get the infrastructure going, while the government will be fixing and repairing municipal infrastructure that is largely your bulk water, sanitation, and internal roads, and also the economic infrastructure I spoke about. All of this will be done because we want to get to those young persons who are sitting now and saying, if I don't commit this crime, I will not eat anything, and therefore must commit crime. So I want to find those young people. Our government will obsess to find those young people before they commit a crime. Whilst we'll increase police capacity, we'll also ensure that we find you before you commit that crime and give you a different path to walk.
Sure. Guys, as you've heard it, that was Bongani Baloyi speaking about the intrinsic values, African values of Xiluva. He's a man of, well thought ideas on how the economy should change. And he's just spoken to us about why he deserves to be the next leader of this country. Thank you so much, and join us for the next episode.